Welcome back to another episode with ByrdAdatto. Today we'll be talking about something different that's in a lot of people's mind. And as you can see, once again, we are still at home here in the Dallas area. We've had a lot of fun shooting these videos. We think this is going to be like one of those surprise things, like a horror movie at any moment. Someone can come crashing through one of our doors. It could be the dog, a cat, a kid, or our internet can go out. So these are the fun things that we're learning about working from home. Michael had a fun experience with that earlier today, right, Michael?
Yes, we got a visitor, even though we're under quarantine, to our house, and the dog decided to greet him while we were in mid shooting. So it was a fun experience.
And that's how I think it'll be for everyone as we try to work through this. But let's start, talking about today. Obviously, we've had different people visit with us, and today, going back to our quarantine, we have someone off here. I'm pointing to him. Who is this person, Michael, that is joining us today?
Yeah, so Jay Reyero, our partner, is coming to bring some wisdom. We decided to bring him on because he is the secret brain trust of ByrdAdatto. Jay has been with us since, out of law school. He has been working with Brad and I, and was one of the guys that helped start ByrdAdatto back in 2015. And for those of you who have heard Jay speak or have worked with Jay, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So we look forward to getting his wisdom today.
And so, Jay, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And so today we're really going to be concentrating on something unique, well, not unique, but different from our other videos that were more speaking on the legal side of what's going on with the healthcare side or what's going on the new laws are going out. But COVID-19 is impacting all our clients in lots of different ways. I've had many conversations just today about listening to people shutting the doors or unfortunately declaring bankruptcy. There's a lot of things in which is going on, and I think that this time it's really a good time for us to start thinking about cash flow. And for that perspective, we have Jay, who's just again, his expertise goes in lots of different directions, but understanding how budgets work is really part of what Jay does on any given day. And so Jay, maybe you can start us off and start talking about what are the things someone should be thinking about when it comes to analyzing their own budget.
Yeah, I think the most important thing kind of to start off first is where you're at. And that's looking at the here and now, looking at your bank account, seeing how much money you have in your bank, and then projecting over a very short time frame, maybe a week or two, as far as what are the upcoming payables that you have, what anticipated cash do you have coming in the door, goal being the point you can reasonably predict where you're going to be from a cash flow perspective in the very short term, again, 1 week to 2 week time frame, depending on when you're doing it. After that, you want to start looking at more of a longer time frame, but still relatively in the near future. So you're looking at probably over the next 2 to 3 months. And really what you're doing is you're kind of analyzing almost on an emergency budget type basis. What are kind of your expected or anticipated revenue streams coming in over those few months? And then looking at all your expenses over those 2 months that you can reasonably identify. You can look back at historicals, budget, or if you have a current year budget, kind of looking at that. Look at the last few months of real-time cash flows to see what have you been paying on a monthly basis to kind of identify what expenses are you going to be able to expect over the next 2 to 3 months. And here you really want to start identifying what are discretionary and what are required expenses. Because at the end of the day, depending on your situation, a lot of the discretionary expenses are things that you can postpone, spend, or completely eliminate in this near short-term time frame. And so really what you're doing is you're focused on what is it at a minimum that I'm going to need to pay to be able to keep my business running and operational. You can think about staff and payroll associated with it. You can think about rent, and your IT. And so you're going to identify several of those kind of, very critical expenses that are going to have to be paid no matter what. Once you kind of break all that down on that basis, now it's to create a plan of action. You're going to start looking at it and start identifying where can we shift things. Are we able to shift ACH to credit card? You're really going to start creating a plan of attack on how you're going to handle what you project to happen over the next 2 to 3 months. The goal is at the end of the day, you want to have kind of a reasonable forecast, and you want to be conservative on your numbers because, again, things are changing on a daily basis. So we don't really know what's going to happen over the next 2 to 3 months. So you kind of want to have an idea of, I'm going to be relatively conservative on all basis and try to, get myself in a position where I feel comfortable that, as I progress through that time period, I'm able to kind of in real time keep up and update the information, update the numbers with the changing circumstances. So this is a process that you're going to do frequently. If you weren't doing it frequently before, you need to do it frequently now. If you're doing it frequently before, you need to do it even more frequently now. And so, what I would also say is don't forget about the long-term planning as well. So go back to your budget and keep in mind, yes, we're looking and planning over the next 2 to 3 months, but you still have to kind of keep in mind the back end of the year and what's going to come down the pipe in September and October and November. It doesn't mean you have to plan for it or deal with it now. It's just something to be aware of. And that kind of also goes with your credit card, because when we're talking about cash flow, your credit card really doesn't factor into that equation. But what you don't want to have happen is that you're moving things to the credit card, and when you come up to the next month, you find out that now your credit card bill, which was historically $20,000, is now $70,000. And so you want to keep these things in mind, and you want to kind of keep those things tracked, but it may not be something that you're dealing with on a daily basis.
And Michael, what are other things that clients should be thinking about besides just, their overall budget? What are the other things they should be looking at?
Well, again, everything to reinforce what Jay said, all of our conversations center around, how do they manage their cash situation or their access to cash. And so kind of the end of our conversations tend to say, okay, well, what are you doing to maintain some form of engagement with your patients? And so, there are a lot of our surgeons, our plastic surgeons and other surgeons are, for elective procedures, are doing their consults by telemedicine. They're going ahead and booking those or rebooking them. And we're getting some really good data back from our clients as far as success of them not wanting their money back, but that really we're having patients that are understanding and just ready to know when their due date is going to be, even if it's a date that may have to be rescheduled again. And then, on the, med spa side or other services side, what are some creative ways, to plan for when you're open again? And, the word of caution is just, how do you do that in a way that's sensitive to where the patients are right now? They're going through the same thing that our clients are going through. We're going through the same thing that our clients are going through. Everyone is impacted by this. And so you have to approach, ideas of having them stay engaged and come back online in a way that's sensitive from a tone perspective to what's happening all around us.
And, we've kind of hit different areas, so definitely have things to look at, as Michael was saying to Jay. That could be, look at your actual contract you have with your landlord, look at your actual contract you may have with a different vendor, and see what type of ability you have to ask for some type of forgiveness or some type of hold. But I think the one thing that, at the least the vast majority of calls I've had in the last 2 weeks, is really about what do I do with my employees. And I know we've already had another entire video all about what Renee has touched on before on the extension of FMLA. But, Jay, what are some of the things that you're hearing from clients, and Michael obviously jump into, as far as how they're viewing their employees and what they, one of the calls I had today was, I love my employees, but I don't want the love of my employees to impact what I can and can't do.
Yeah, what I've experienced is, that same sentiment that, that's the last thing that you want to have to deal with, and the last thing you want to have to make changes to. And so when it gets to that point, if it does, there are a lot of different ways that you can handle it. Unfortunately, there are, furloughs and terminations. or just closing the business down. But with that, there are a lot of different considerations depending on the class type of employees and the various benefits that are offered. And until we get to April 2nd with the Family First Act becoming effective, there may be some other sick leave and other things in play. And so the best thing to do in those situations, and the way that I've kind of walked clients, is just walking them through on a very case-by-case basis as far as what are your goals, what do you want to accomplish, and then let's look at the facts and the circumstances to figure out how best to accomplish that in the right way. And so I think that's the most important thing, is there's not going to be a bright line rule or a one solution that solves all. You really are going to have to look at it on a case-by-case basis, go through it, analyze it, and kind of work through ultimately what you want to do, how much will it save, and what does it look like too if things turn around. I mean, that's the whole goal and the hope, is that things are going to turn around. This is going to be short-lived. We're going to get back to normal. And so what are the effects of the decisions now in 6 months? And there can be some significant challenges there. And so it's just kind of walking through all of those circumstances and really making decisions on a case-by-case basis.
And Michael, what are some other reasonable steps to kind of sign off on, as far as you can think of, that we've mentioned a lot here in this video, and we don't want to take up all the time, but is there anything else that you can think of, the last words of advice for the reasonable steps that we didn't cover?
No, I think it's so everyone's situation is different depending on their cash position, depending on whether they own their real estate, how many employees they have. That really the first step is just to talk it through and figure out how to prioritize things. And because there are tools that are coming available every day, whether there's the SBA kind of program that came out that allows for some refinancing or financing to help to we even saw that a lot of lenders are giving relief if you have a commercial mortgage and you own your business real estate. And so those are the types of things that we would talk through. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things we didn't talk about in this one, which is going to be your bank loans or SBA options. Obviously, there's a lot of laws that are being passed. We're hoping to have a video within this week for all our clients to kind of analyze their current loans, but more importantly, what is the new, if the law does pass, how that impact the SBA option. But that's all the time we have today. Thanks again for joining us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.